And a big welcome from the Ayrshire Wigtownshire Festival to everyone watching tonight's presentation. We hope you enjoy it. I'm Stuart McMahon, your host for tonight, and I'm the editor of Full Pints magazine, which is produced by the Ayrshire and Wigtownshire branch of CAMRA, the Campaign for Real Ale. The Ayrshire Wigtownshire Festival should have been happening this weekend in Troon, but understandably it has not been possible to hold such a large gathering with the current COVID restrictions. We'll keep our fingers crossed for our 21st birthday party next year. However, we encourage everyone, if it's safe to do so, to continue to support your local pubs in order to help them survive through these challenging times. Tonight though, we've got 2 virtual brewery tours and tastings for you, along with some music and photos from previous festivals. So first, let's start off tonight with a time-lapse from the festival taken back in 2014. A full day's worth of action in under 3 minutes. Our first virtual tour and tasting tonight is from somewhere not that far away as the crow flies from Ayrshire, namely Islay. Over the summer, Islay Ales produced the following video for the Feshiel, Islay's week-long festival in celebration of malt and music, the former of which there is certainly no shortage of on Islay. The brewery is looking to expand into new premises soon to allow them to become Islay's first combined brewery and distillery, and there's some tastings of their own whisky at the end of the video as well. Also within the video is some music provided by some friends of Islay Ales called Really Jiggered, a couple of girls from Gourock who support the Feshiel every year. So sit back and enjoy the trip to Islay recorded earlier on this summer.
Hello, I'm Mackay Smith, one of the owners of Islay Ales and the head brewer. My family's from Porthaven on the southwest coast of Islay, and as far as we can tell, we've been here for at least 1,000 years. They just can't get rid of us. My family were the Mackays of the Rins, a clan that supported the Lords of the Isles, who ruled the islands of the west coast of Scotland from their base here on Islay for around 500 years. As you can imagine, the sea plays a big part in the life of Porthaven. It's a fishing village, but it's also seen a lot of its young people go to sea on the merchant navy, seeking new experiences and adventures. Generations of my family went to sea and travelled the world to places like Canada, Hong Kong and New Zealand. I myself have worked and lived overseas for over 20 years in Asia Pacific, Europe and North America, and I reckon I can just about order a beer and a taxi in most languages. Just as it did for my sea-going forefathers, Islay's a place that pulls you back. And so after being away for many years, I felt the calling to come back home. I had the opportunity to do so by taking over the brewery with Donald, my good mate from Port Charlotte, back in July 2018, and I jumped at the chance. We had already set up our own whisky business, the Islay Boys Limited, and it seemed to us a good fit to add to our portfolio. We knew we had to change things, the style of beer and the branding, and we set about that with the new beers coming on stream from March 2019. Thankfully, people are really enjoying what we've done, and sales have more than doubled in the first year. Normally, today on our open day, I'd be heading up early to Port Charlotte to pick up Donald for our big day at the brewery, with beer, whisky, great music, good food and lots of laughter. Obviously it's not the same this year with coronavirus, but as part of our virtual feis, we'll try to capture a wee bit of the atmosphere of the day with a tour of the brewery, tasting of the beers, a masterclass of our range of whiskies, as well as some foot-stomping music from Really Jiggered, while we wait for Feisile 2021 to come around and to seeing you all again.
Welcome to Port Charlotte. I'm Donald Mackenzie, the other owner of Islay Ales and Islay Boys, and I look after the sales and marketing for our whiskies and beers. My family are well known in Islay, with both my father and mother having been teachers at Islay High School when I was a boy, although my father also worked at Lagavulin Distillery. Well, he painted the walls one summer. Although we lived in Bemore, just across Lochandall when I was a wee boy, my parents moved to Port Charlotte when I was 11 years old, luckily taking me with them. Like Mackay, I have lived overseas for more than 20 years, primarily helping to sell premium spirits into big European markets like France. We like to think with Mackay that we have complementary skill sets, but actually we're just good friends first and foremost. Now, whilst Mac leads on the brewing side, I was trained by Jim McEwen at Brewery Distillery back in the day. So I suppose you could say of the two of us that I'm Mr. Whiskey and he's Mr. Beer. We'll shortly be arriving at the brewery and you will see that it is a compact operation. With demand for our beers increasing, we have plans for a major expansion into a bespoke new brewery building, allowing us to increase production to meet demand on Islay and beyond. And at the same time, we intend to add distillation to be able to increase the supply of peated Islay single malt for our award-winning flat nose and bare legs whisky ranges. This will make us Islay's first combined brewery and distillery. Later on, both myself and Mac will explain the project in more detail and how indeed you might possibly become involved.
The brewery is currently based at Islay House Square in Bridgend in converted agricultural buildings, with brewing starting there over 16 years ago in 2004. Welcome to Islay Ales Open Day at the Virtual Feis 2020. For those of you that have been at the brewery before, welcome back. And for those of you for whom it's your first time, it's great to see you. As you can see, we're in Islay's only brewery. It's a microbrewery. I can virtually touch both walls with my arms. We're what's traditionally called a 4-barrel brewery, and we can produce 650 litres of beer per brew. Let's go for a tour. So let's start the process with our hot liquor tank, or our hot water tank. The great thing about making beer and whisky on Islay is that we've got beautiful soft water. So we don't have to add any chemicals to that. The way that we get it is the way that we use it. What we do in the hot liquor tank is we raise the temperature up to a strike temperature of 71 degrees, and that hot water is coming in here into our mash tun, where it's mixed with various different malts. Now what happens in whisky distillation is that you're just using one malted barley. Here in beer we're using multiple. Because what we're also thinking about as brewers is the colour of the beer, how dark do we want it to be. So for example, we would use this chocolate malt to get a nice dark stout. We're also thinking about the flavour, we're thinking about the density of the beer, and we're thinking about the head retention. So the malted barley and the hot water is mixing together in here, mashing away for about 80 minutes before we move on to the next step. So we take the wort from the mash tun, and this is where the process differs slightly between distillation and brewing. In distilling, they'd be taking the wort off to the washbacks to be fermented. In brewing, we're taking the wort and putting it into our kettle or copper, because there's one very important ingredient that we need to add in brewing, which is our hops. We let the hops infuse the wort with their wonderful flavours and aromas for about 60 minutes. Then we let it cool down and transfer it to our fermenters. It's into the fermenters that we pitch the yeast, and that converts the sugars into alcohol. The wort will be in the fermenter for about 7 days. So after the fermentation process and conditioning process is complete, we decant the beer into 1,000-litre containers. It goes away to our partner on the mainland, who filter, pasteurise and carbonate the beer, and then we get it back in bottles and kegs. Normally on our open day we would have really jiggered, playing out in the middle of the square, getting people up on their feet and dancing away. But by the wonders of modern technology, we're still able to bring them to you. So we're going to hand over to Really Jiggered, to Fiona and Alison for their first song of the day. Take it away, girls.
Slanjava!
Slanjava!
Hello, we are Really Jiggered.
This is Alison.
And this is Fiona. And we would normally be with Mac and Donald at the Islay Ales Open Day. We're normally used to the blistering heat of the Feshiel.
Which hasn't arrived in Guruk yet.
But yeah, so we're hoping for some sun to come out in Guruk, where we are, performing for you at this virtual fesh. So we hope that you're going to enjoy our performance today. We're going to play for you a track called The Deals of War from the Excitement from our latest album, Tricky Terrain.
So get up off your sofas and enjoy yourself with us.
thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
that rapturous applause. Cheers.
Thanks really, Jigad, that was fantastic. Well, welcome back to the brewery. It's now time for the tasting of our beers. If any of you have some of our beers at home, feel free to crack them open and we can drink a few beers together. All of our beers are named after place names on Islay, and our Big Strand Craft Lager, which is the beer that we'll taste first, is named after Islay's longest beach, which is 7 miles long. The style that we're aiming for with this beer is a Czech Pilsner style, so it's going to be light, clean and crisp. And if you look at the colour of it, you'll see it's a nice pale golden colour. We've got nice head retention on the beer there. On the nose, yeah, you're getting very light malt, a little bit of citrus notes on the nose, but nothing overly complex. That's not what a Pilsner is about. A Pilsner is about drinking on a nice warm summer's day, something that's refreshing. Yeah, again, it's clean, it's crisp, it's refreshing. We're getting a little bit of citrus notes at the end. What we don't want is just to make gassy water. So what we're trying to do with this lager is give you something that's refreshing, but that it's also got some good flavour to it. The beer is at 4% ABV, so it's very sessionable. In terms of IBU, for those of you that are interested, the international bitterness units were at 16, which again is very low. There's virtually no bitterness in the beer at all. So a great beer to have with your barbecue in the summer. Moving on to our Finlagan IPA. Finlagan was the headquarters of the Lords of the Isles. You can go and visit that if you've not already done so. It's up in the northeast of Islay. There's a little visitor centre down there. So as well as spending some time visiting the brewery and visiting distilleries, you can go and learn a little bit about the history and the culture of Islay at Loch Finlagan. This is our IPA. Now, we get a lot of people that come into the brewery, especially Americans, who say, oh, listen, I don't really like IPAs, they're too bitter. We have deliberately made sure that this is not too bitter. In terms of IBUs, we're at 40. It's, again, a very pale golden colour, transparent. We've only used lager malt, interestingly, on the mash bill, no other malted barley. Again, we've got some nice head retention there. On the nose, you're getting a light grapefruit and tropical smell to it. And it's on the palate where the grapefruit flavour really comes through. And that's coming primarily from a hop that we've used called Mosaic. It's lovely and refreshing. It's very close in style to our lager, but just with that grapefruit twist. We're at 4.5% ABV. What we're trying to do with our core range is to keep the beers between 4 and 4.5%, so you can have a couple of them and not be stotting off the walls. Finlagan's actually our most popular beer, and in fact we get a lot of people in the brewery who say they don't like beer actually enjoy drinking this. So it's a really easy drinking beer. Moving on to our Saligo Golden Ale. Saligo is one of our favourite beaches on the west coast of Islay. The style of beer here is Golden Ale, which is it's a more UK style of beer, and it's really a cross between beers that are getting most of their flavour from hops, like the first two beers that we've tried, and those beers that are getting most of their flavour from the malt, so like our stout, for example. This is really in the middle, where we're trying to combine the flavour of malt and the flavour of the hops together. Again, it's a nice pale golden beer, nice head retention. We've got, in terms of IBUs, this beer is at 25, so it's a little bit more bitter than what the beers we've just had, but not too much. On the nose, you're really getting The smell, if you've been round a whisky distillery and the person in the distillery has opened up a washback for you and you've got that smell wafting over you, that's the primary smell that you're getting on the nose. That's the influence of the malt coming through. And on the palate, that's where we're really starting to get the influence of the hops. We've used some nice Bobek hops from Slovenia, some Amarillo and Mount Hood hops from the US to try and give us some citrus and lemon overtones to the beer. Again, very refreshing beer. In our range, it's probably the beer that's closest to real ale in style. It's not real ale because all of our beers have been pasteurised, but it's the closest in style. Again, we're at 4.2% ABV, so very easy to drink a couple of them at the time. Moving on into our slightly more darker beers, we have our Nerebus Red Rye. Nerebus is an ancient burial ground of the Mackays of the Rins, halfway between Portnahaven and Port Charlotte. Now look at the difference in colour of that. We've got a nice ruby red colour to it, and that's coming primarily from the rye that we've used in the mash bill. We've also got pale malt and some torrefied wheat that is trying to give us the good head retention. If those of you who've ever drunk a Scottish 70 shilling, this is a modern take on that style of beer. That's one of the great things about Scots. They say that we like to look after our money, and we even named our beers after how much tax was paid on them. So a 60 shilling, a 70 shilling, an 80 shilling or 90 shilling was how much tax you were paying on your beer, rather than giving them good brand names like Big Strand or whatever. So on the nose, we're getting a malty, biscuity smell to the beer, primarily driven by the rye. And on the palate, it's balanced up with the hops that we've used, in particular a lovely hop from Germany called Huell Melon, and that's balancing the malty sweetness with some nice bitterness and some strawberry overtones. Again, 4.4%. This is one of our beers where personally I prefer to drink them cold, but this one can easily be drunk at room temperature. And finally, we have our Black Rock Stout. Oops. Now, Black Rock is a rock formation at the top of Loch-and-Daw, and both my parents and Donald's parents used to tell us a load of old nonsense, which was that it was the remains of an ancient sea monster. Anyway, obviously this is a stout, but what we're looking for here, or what I had in mind when we created this beer, was actually a mochaccino. I'd just come out of a coffee house with a cold mochaccino. I had that chocolate and that espresso coffee flavour in my mouth, and I thought that's what I want our stout to taste like. So it is a stout, it's much less dense than a Guinness, and again that's deliberate so that we're able to drink a couple of them at a time. You'll see it's very, very dark in colour. That beautiful colour is coming primarily from the chocolate malt and the unmalted roasted barley that we've used in the mash bill. We've also used some oat to try and give this beer a little bit of thickness and density to it, along with torrefied wheat for the head. So yeah, on the nose, you really get the chocolate smell. Yeah, and for those of you that have not had your espresso coffee yet in the morning, you'll definitely get that from this beer. It comes through on the palate. Again, we're at 4.4%. Very easy to drink a couple of them at a time. This particular beer I think goes really well with seafood. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had a glass in your hand at the same time. I think after all that, it's now time to move back to really jiggered, to get us back up on our feet and dancing again. So I'll pass you back to the girls. And then we need to do...
Slange! Well, we hope you're enjoying the virtual Feis Eel. If you're enjoying our music, then you can get your hands on a copy of our latest album, Tricky Terrain. It's available from our www.reallyjiggered.co.uk/shop, and it's a lot of our own self-penned songs that we've written. And you'll also get to see and hear Scott, who would normally be with us at the Feis Eel, and we really hope that you'll enjoy this latest album, because we know that you're always very supportive of us, and we always have such a wonderful time getting you all up dancing and singing and enjoying some fantastic Celtic folk music, Celtic folk rock music even. So we're going to perform for you another few songs, and we're going to sing for you The Parting Glass.
again next year. Slange.
Slange vat.
Well, a big thanks to Fiona and Alison of Really Jiggered for the songs. Absolutely love Really Jiggered. We're very, very big fans of Really Jiggered. And please go to their website at reallyjiggered.co.uk. Get the new album Tricky Terrain. It's absolutely fantastic. It's playing in the brewery as we speak, and playing in our cars and the brewery van as Mac drives around Islay delivering beers. Now, I'm Donald, the other half of Islay Boys, Islay Ales again, and I'm here to give you a wee whisky masterclass on our 5 whiskies from our independent whisky bottling company, Islay Boys Limited. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 2 ranges. Flat Nose, which is our blended whiskies, either blended Scotch or blended malt Scotch whiskies, and then Bare Legs, which are our single malt whiskies. Now, the names come from our Viking heritage. Islay is of course a Celtic island, but before that it was a Viking island. And Flat Nose tells us about Ketil Flatnose, Ketil Bjornsson. His nickname was Flatnose because he had a flat nose from all the fighting as a Viking. And he was the first Viking to proclaim himself King of the Hebrides in the late 9th century. And then we move on to Bare Legs. That tells us about Magnus Bare Legs, Magnus the Fourth of Norway. And he was, when he came to Islay as a king of Norway, and he took the Isles over from King Edgar of Scotland, who gave them the islands of Scotland. Anyway, he came over to the Western Isles and he adopted the kilt. And his men called him Magnus Bare Legs because his legs were bare. There you go. And there's wee accents over the O and over the A because that looks Scandinavian, we think. But anyway, first whisky that we made was this one. And the idea behind this for me and Mac was to make whiskies that were maybe a bit more flavour forward, maybe with a wee hint of peat or a lot of peat. I mean, we're Islay boys, you know. And we felt that blended scotches were quite often just a little bit delicate, a little bit too refined for us Islay folk. We wanted more flavour in a blend. So we bottle it at 43% and it's unchill filtered, which for a blend is really quite unusual. The big news just in on this whisky is that it's just won double gold in the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, which was held last month. And that's a surprising honour for us because double gold isn't easily accorded in the San Francisco competition. So double gold medal winner, Flat Nose blended Scotch. What's it like? Let's have a wee taste. Well, it's got a classic whisky nose, perhaps a wee bit of pepper. There's a wee bit of smoke just poking its nose through there. A wee bit of pepper in the nose. What's it like to taste? Let's have a wee shot. Oh, again, you get peppery, slightly smoky notes just poking their way through. Initial peppery spiciness, and then a long, smooth sweetness. And you can see I'm licking my lips. That's because it's unchill filtered, so it's quite oily. It's really very, very nice texture on the mouth, on the tongue. It's a really, really long-lasting finish, as we say. There you go. That's our Flat Nose blended Scotch, our very first whisky back in the day. And we'll move on to the Flat Nose rum barrel finish. But just, that's the box on this one. Let's move on now to the Flat Nose rum barrel finish, which is essentially the same whisky as we just tasted, the Flat Nose blended Scotch, but with extra aging in Latin American rum barrels. Now what that does, of course, is it adds a little layer of kind of demerara sugar notes to the Flat Nose blended Scotch itself. Adds a bit of, I don't know, exotic South American notes to the flavour. Let's have a closer look at it. This one's our most recent whisky. It came out late last year. Let's have a wee splash of this. Now, what we should be looking at getting here, rather, is perhaps vanilla notes. And again, I mean, I sometimes get, you know, toasted pineapple notes, would you believe? But there you go. Each to their own. Yeah, absolutely. You get this kind of, ooh, what's that? What's that? What are those aromas sensation? And it's giving nice, sweet, sugary notes to it. So what does it do? Let's have a wee taste. Well, interesting. You get the flat nose blended Scotch coming through in the palate with those spicy peppery notes that we know so well. But then it slowly evolves into this sort of slight demerara sugar, brown sugar notes just coming through on the end of the tongue. It's really quite exciting. It's a good way perhaps for maybe people who are newer to whisky. It's an easy way into whisky. It's maybe, we like to think, a nice balance between the old world of bold Scotch whisky and perhaps the new world of sweet rums. This is maybe somewhere in the middle, closer to whisky than to rum, of course. It's still a Scotch whisky. And here's the box on this one. Well, now let's move on to the third and final flat nose of the three flat noses. This is this one here. This is our flat nose blended malt Scotch whisky. A different animal perhaps from its two wee brothers. This is all malt. And it's bottled at 46% and not 43% like its little brothers. So clearly there's going to be more flavour presence there. There are 10 single malts in this. It's what we used to call pure malts back in the day, but it's a blended malt, so all single malts. 10 single malts, 1/3 Islay, 2/3 Speyside. And you can probably see us coming here. The idea was to have peat presence initially, but then to maybe evolve into a sweeter, gentler Speyside as the flavour profile moves through your mouth. That was the idea. But 46% unchill filtered, this is serious whisky. And this one, just by the way, in the San Francisco World Spirits competition that the wee brother just won the double gold for, we popped this one in as well to see what they thought of it. And it got a gold medal. So 2 whiskies entered, 1 double gold, 1 gold medal. We're really quite proud. We're actually very happy Islay boys. But what that means is that folk then, taste your whiskies, and if judges agree that they like them, then that's generally not such a bad sign. Yeah, well, this is a different animal. Let's have a wee taste of this one. Now, clearly, with 1/3 Islay, we're going to get peat on the nose. And we do. But it's not overwhelming. It's not a big peat monster hitting you in the head with a big stick of peat. No, the peat's there, but it's quite subtle. Let's have a taste of it. Well, we're at 46% alcohol. We have lots more explosion of flavour. The alcohol strength obviously gives us access to more flavour. It's bolder, it's bigger, it's all malt. The peat is there. The peat is there, but then if you wait a wee bit, that peat that's not too overpowering gently smooths out into the Speyside whiskies that are in the bottle too. A nice mix of peat and perhaps gentle long finish. It's a great sharing whisky actually. It's a whisky that me and Mac tend to have on the table in the brewery, at our homes when we're talking together. It's great for that. Perhaps more for whisky fans than the blends themselves. It's a great sharing whisky. And this is the box on this fellow. Well, let's move on now to the Bear Legs range. Just 2 in the range. It should be quite short. The first one is this one here. It's the Bear Legs Highland Single Malt Whisky. Now, we're perhaps a bit unusual with our whiskies insofar as our single malts are some of the components of our blends. This one goes into this one and that one, and this one goes into this one. And this one, what we liked about it most of all initially was smelling the sample from the cask, was the nose for it. It's got a lovely, I suppose you could say, heathery nose to it. It's really quite unusual. It's a Highland single malt, but it's lightly peated, and that's unusual for the Highlands to have peat, smoke in Highland single malt whisky, and this one's got it. Now, it's not an Islay single malt, so the peat is actually very, very subtle and gentle, and probably more knitted into the texture rather than being a big dominant flavour of the whisky itself. But it makes for a very intriguing single malt. 46% alcohol, unchill filtered, as all our whiskies are, unchill filtered for more mouthfeel and oiliness and flavour and persistence in the mouth. What does this one do? Well, that honey and smoke is very, very seductive, I'm telling you. In the mouth, there we are again. It's very gentle peat. It's very sweet. It's a Highland single malt. And the peat is just there as a flavour enhancer. It's perhaps a very good aperitif whisky. Or maybe people who are new to peat, coming in, you know, maybe from this whisky into bigger, peatier flavours. It's perfect for that. Oh, and here's the box. Well, let's move on now to the last of the 5 whiskies. This is our Bear Legs Islay single malt. It's the flagship of the range. It's our second Bear Leg single malt. It's a classic Islay single malt. Let's have a wee smell and a wee taste of this one. As Islay boys, obviously we're very proud of this one. It's got, let's have a wee smell of it. It's got peat. Obviously there's peat smoke coming straight out, hitting you on the nose. But you know, there's not just peat smoke here. There's also, I would probably call it barley sugar notes coming through there. Definitely barley. It's a farmyard whisky here. It's barley and smoke mixed together. What can go wrong? A wee taste. Again, the peat just fills your mouth completely, but it's not a dry, harsh peat. It's quite a sweet peat filling your mouth. It fills your mouth, of course, but there's barley coming through the middle of it. There's almost this, again, this barley sugar, gentle, sweet barley sugar at the end. It's a classic, gentle Islay single malt. It's young, second fill bourbon. But you know, it won silver at the International Wines and Spirits competition in 2017. And again, it won runner-up at Whisky Live Poland in 2018 and at Whisky Live Italy in 2018 as well. We think the judges were a wee bit harsh with that silver. We think it maybe could have got a bit better. But anyway, it's a classic Islay, but gentle Islay single malt. We're very, very proud of it. And when we're away, me and Mackay, in hotels, you take that bottle out, have a wee dram, and you're straight back on Islay. There's the box. Well, I hope you enjoyed that whisky tasting as much as I did. And for those that are interested, if you're in the UK, you can buy online on our website, isleyboys.com, or indeed some of the better whisky shops, of course, stock our products. And if you're abroad or further afield, for distribution inquiries or for export inquiries, get in touch through Facebook Messenger and we'll get back to you. So anyway, let's get back to Mac now for a wee chat about the brewery and about our plans for it in the future.
Thanks for that tasting, Donald. I reckon you just shaded it on the better tasting, but only just. Anyway, future plans. I mean, we have enjoyed being in the square, but what was clear even last summer was that as we went through the season, we were running out of certain beers, simply due to a lack of capacity. And that's only to supply Islay, never mind anywhere else. And we have had requests from distributors on the mainland UK and in export markets for our beers. But we've had to say to them, sorry, we can't supply because of a lack of capacity. So put quite simply, we need bigger premises.
And we're also constrained on the whisky side, based on the fact that there is a limit as to how much whisky we can source to help feed the growth of our existing and indeed our future whisky brands. We are now at the stage where we need to be able to distill our own spirit to allow that future growth.
So Donald and I are currently finalising plans for a unique facility on Islay that would combine both beer and whisky production. The new site will allow us to increase capacity to meet the demand that we can see before us. It will also allow us to benefit from the synergies of doing both on a single site.
And we would like as many Ilich as possible, and indeed friends of Islay from around the world, to come and join us in this adventure. And so later in the year, we will look to bring to the market an investment opportunity to invest with us in our new brewery and distillery, the only one on Islay. Investment will be possible in casks, but also in shares. We will keep you posted via our social media channels, so please follow us at facebook.com/Islay Ales. And if you'd like to receive updates by email, then please get in touch at office@isleyboys.com and you'll be the first to be kept informed. Let's welcome back Alison and Fiona from Really Jiggered. A big thanks to them for their fantastic music. And you can buy their latest album, Tricky Terrain, on their website at reallyjiggered.co.uk.
Thanks very much for having us again to the Islay Boys, and we're very much looking forward to joining you again in 2021 for the next Feis Ile.
Well, thanks very much, Alison. It's a real pleasure. Listen, we hope you've all enjoyed our virtual Feis Ile 2020 here at Islay Ales and learning a bit more about us and our plans for the future. It only remains for us to say that we look forward to seeing you all in Islay, either at Feis Ile 2021 or indeed at some other time. And until then, we hope that you and your families stay safe, and we wish you all good health. All together now, Slán!
Thanks to Mackay and Donald for giving us an overview from Islay, which of course wouldn't have been complete without some whisky. And of course the girls from Really Jiggered as well for their music. As I said in the clip, you can buy or listen to more of their music at reallyjiggered.com. Back to our own festival though, and no Saturday afternoon would be complete without our pipe band slots. So here are 2 videos from the archives. Firstly, with Irvine and District Pipe Band in 2014, and then last year in 2019 with the Caledonian Pipe Band from Edinburgh. That was a selection of photos from previous festivals. Maybe you managed to spot yourself. Friday and Saturday nights at the festival always feature our live bands, so here are the Best Bad Influence, getting the customers dancing last year with La Bamba. That was a little video describing just some of the benefits of CAMRA membership. Please consider joining if you are not already a member. It's great value. In addition, we've got our own local branch where, in normal times, we have social groups meeting in pubs in North, East and South Ayrshire, along with pubs down in Wigtownshire. We also have our award-winning magazine Full Pints and have produced a series of ale trails, trips that can be completed using trains, buses or on foot. They're all available to view and download on our website at www.awcamra.org.uk. So we'll now travel down to the Machars of Galloway and the Isle of Whithorn to meet up with Alistair Schooler and the Beer Reactions guys, Phil and Jono, for a tour and tastings from the Five Kingdoms Brewery. Over to you guys.
The Isle of Whithorn, in beautiful, remote southwest Scotland, a place of rolling hills, rugged coastlines, tranquil beaches, and home to the Five Kingdoms Brewery, the most southerly brewery in Scotland, and so named because on a clear day, 5 historical kingdoms of England, Ireland, the Isle of Man, Wales and Scotland are all visible from the Isle. Welcome to the Five Kingdoms Brewery.
Hi, it's Alistair Schooler here from Five Kingdoms Brewery down in Isle of Whithorn. We're based in the old Queen's Arms building just up the street from the harbour. And I'd like to welcome Paul and Jono, who are from Beer Reactions.
Come in further, Paul, come in further, just let me see you actually there.
Hello! We're delighted to say they're going to help us with the filming due to their far superior technical abilities. So
let's wait for that to be seen, shall we? So, Alistair, I think it'd be nice if you could show us around the brewery.
Should certainly be delighted to do that. I'll just give you a wee bit of history behind the brewery here before we start, and then we'll have a wee bit of tasting at the end if you fancy it.
That sounds more like it, How about for that? So, how long has the brewery been here, Alistair?
The brewery we started 5 years ago, which was it was a process of a lucky coincidence. Brendan, who's through there brewing at the moment, started working for me at the pub as a chef. And as most people know, I've had the Steam Packet for about 20 years. We've been in the good pub guide for a long time, good beer guide. We've always had a keen interest in real ale. Found out that Brendan, as well as a chef, was working as a brewer for Six North, who are a well-known Belgian-style brewery up in Stonehaven. So when, unfortunately, we had to close the Queen's Arms as a pub a few years before that, and we hadn't really developed it. So when me and Brendan started working together, we hatched a plan to put a little brewery in it, just for the pub to start. We were very fortunate that we got some funding together that we were able to put in a brand new 5 hectolitre plant, which for the first 2 or 3 years, it was just for the pub. We were maybe brewing once a week. And then we started selling to a couple of other outlets and did a bit of bottling through the winter, which was popular. So over last winter, we decided we'll expand the brewery. We bought 2 new fermenters and we turned these on in March, which was lockdown, which was timing was brilliant. But since lockdown lifted, we've been absolutely flat out brewing for an ever expanding group of customers within the region, doing more bottling. We've moved into kegging. So for next year, we're hoping to expand further and hopefully do tours as well, because there's an ever increasing number of people who poke their nose through the door and want to see what we're doing.
What does it look like now? How far away do you supply?
Now, as of this year, I went out and I've looked for a core group of pubs and I've sold it well. And we're now at Patrick to the west, and we're all the way to a couple of pubs in Dumfries. The bottles, we developed a web shop over lockdown, and that was incredible. I mean, we were sending out 4 or 5 cases a day, constant courier anywhere in the UK. I still do farmers markets. I really like the Dumfries farmers market. It's really good fun because I get to sell beer and do shopping in a day. It's magic. And we do meet quite a few customers there, which is kind of nice. You'll probably recognise these two. These are our two original fermenting vessels we started with 5 years ago. We're still using them. That might help. When we were looking at expanding, the original idea was we'll just get another couple of fermenters, you know, the 5 hectolitre fermenters. Then when I got the quote, I realised that there really wasn't much difference in cost between getting a 10 hectolitre fermenter and a 5 hectolitre fermenter. Now, these 10 hectolitre fermenters are actually twice the size of our brewery. So what we do is I'll start work at 6 o'clock in the morning and do a brew and half fill them, and then Brendan will come in afterwards and he'll fill the other half. So effectively we can be a 10 hect brewery off a 5 hect kit. There we go, guys. Welcome to Five Kingdoms.
So what's happening just here then, Brendan? So I'm just going to start, we've got our strike temp, so we're up to about just over 75 degrees. So basically we're going to start putting the malt in.
Usually takes us about 15 minutes to mash it like this, doesn't it? Yeah, roughly, yeah. We're using these little kitchen probes. Yeah. Yep.
Quite often I have to get the element of my boiler really to see.
The other thing by hand down here at Five Kingdoms, so every single bottle we do has to be sterilised by hand, go onto these bottle trays, and then this is our bottling machine here. As the beer comes out of a canister, we just put it up there, gravity fed, into here, bottles go on, pens of pressure, it fills up, off, onto our wee tapping machine. Whoa! That's it. Bottled up. And then cross onto the labelling machine, again by hand. You can teach children to do this, and this is how my son gets his Xbox games. That's it. Ready for the market?
Hello and welcome to this very special edition of Beer Reactions. I'm Paul.
I'm Jono, and today we are at the Five Kingdoms Brewery in the Isle of Wigtownshire in southwest Scotland, and with us we have Alistair and we've got head brewer Brendan.
How are we doing?
Welcome, thanks for having us, guys.
No problem, pleasure.
So, shall we unveil the ale?
Let's unveil the ale.
Ta-da!
So what we've got here then?
We've got, well, Five Kingdoms, 5 beers. Seems like a good way to start. We've got our newest beer, which is Rebus. This is a limited edition run we're doing basically to test new recipes. Summer Ale, which is our most popular summer beer this year, obviously named after the Wicker Man film. And then we've got Cash, which is our take on an English bitter. It won gold at the Seaber Awards for its category. Fantastic. And then 2 of the stronger ones, we've got Captain Morrison's IPA that we're making today. And of course, our most popular bottled beer, particularly in lockdown, is Dark Storm Stout.
Okay, Alistair, go for it.
Oh, look at that genie! Look at that.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, beautiful. Okay, let's
Do you want me to play mother?
play mother, Jonathan.
I'll play mother. Pass me a glass, Paul.
Here we go.
There you go.
This was one of our.
Oh, I've been really good this week.
So again, 2 new UK hops, Jester and Mystic.
So what's your take on the aroma of that? What would you classify that aroma as being? Because I'm getting like a leafy greenness there as well, a little bit of
It
citrus
is,
in it.
yeah.
It's kind of restrained citrus to me. It's
Yeah.
not like in your face.
It's subtle.
It's quite.
It's a little bit more herbal, or
Yeah.
I think a little bit as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm going in.
Let's get on it. Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
Level of carbonation on that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. I'm hoping it stops now.
Subtle citrus.
Kind of like a lager, and I guess. So what hops were in there again? Sassans, did you say?
No, just Jester and Mystic. Basically, we kind of split them, and
I think that's the first beer I've ever had that's had that combination with it of Jester and Mystic in there.
It's funny that you mentioned lager whenever we're considering doing our own Pilsner, and we're actually been thinking about using Jester in the brew because of the characteristics that have come through with this.
and them being British as well.
And everywhere we've sent this beer out so far in this first release, it's sold really quickly because it seems to be a beer that you'll have a pint that just goes down really quickly, easily.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think if a beer is too hot forward, you maybe have 1 or 2 and then you kind of stop a bit.
And it's 4%.
Yeah, it's just 4%.
I like that. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next, Alistair?
We have Summer Ale.
Oh, lovely little genie as well. Jonathan.
Nerve-wracking.
Lovely. So she's going to be quite as lively as the other one?
Hopefully shouldn't be quite as live.
No, I don't think not quite as lively. So Summer Ale again, Pale Ale, ABV 4%. 4%, okay.
You should get a really
the
good
aroma
aroma
from
here
that
on
is.
that. My first thoughts is passion fruit. It's like a smell of
that
passion
aroma
fruit.
is fantastic. So just remind us what hops you're using in there.
This is Mosaic, Simcoe, Amarillo, Sentinel, and Magnum's the bittering hop. So basically,
it's lovely that. Passion fruit and mango.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
There's something almost it's almost like sherbety as well, like a kind of sweetness coming through.
yeah. Again, I think that's the gravity, the final gravity that we get to.
It's only 10-14 for this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it leaves it.
So there is still a bit of sugar left up.
So it's not right down.
I'm going in. Let's get and give this a try.
Oh, that's simple. Again, that aroma is backed up then by
that is really nice.
That tropical, that tropical fruit burst that you get.
And it's refreshing.
Yeah.
I think there's a cleanness to it.
Yeah.
This is actually quite light on bitterness, which I suppose contributes to the drinkability of it, isn't it?
Alistair always worries when he's making this one because we put first edition hop of Magnum, and then nothing else is touched until basically just before the end of the boil.
Okay.
There's not even that much Magnum, but it's just this tiny little amount of Magnum at the start, and I'm thinking, surely we should put more
hops in.
And it's all right at the back end, and then the dry hop,
double dry hop.
Yeah.
Our idea with this beer, with Summer Ale, is every summer we're going to change it slightly. We're going to sort of play around with the hops a little bit. So it might be different next year. So I think also with the name being a seasonal beer, being Summer Ale, it's something we can kind of sort of change each year.
Certainly this year, for me, selling it in the pub and to other outlets, it's been extremely popular. It's been very well received everywhere, in all formats, whether it be cask or keg or in bottles. It's gone well across the board. People really like it.
That's a great summer beer, and we often talk about whether you would sit and quaff a few pints of a particular beer, and that would definitely
That
We often sit and talk about puffing beer.
That's what it is.
It definitely falls into that category of beer you would have a good few pints on.
That's what we were going.
That's the design remit. Is if I'm sitting on the harbour on a day off or I come off the bike, I want to be sitting feeling a few pints, still able to get home and talk,
Watching the sun go down.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
Nice bowl of salty chips.
I don't need any encouragement for drinking this.
Great, well done, guys. That's a cracking beer. Cracking beer. Cheers.
Okay, so what we're going to do next?
Right, this is Wee McCash. Can't take note. That's.
He's had a couple.
He's the wrong milk.
Trying to open it with a jacket.
Oh, little genie there again.
Yeah, that's nice. It's still there.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So just remind us, Blue McCash, is your take on a
Traditional English
traditional
style
English
bitter.
Oh, I like this.
It should be all about the malt with this.
So it's a beer reaction quotient.
Be careful though.
I mean, in terms of aroma, most malty beers sometimes don't have much of an aroma, so...
That's got quite a good aroma. There's a bit of caramel there.
Oh, I can definitely smell that.
Jono, there's a hop in here that you like. You said earlier.
SARS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Definitely. Got a biscuity smell that you'd expect.
That's a beauty. That's a beauty.
It's the colour that I
It's
like.
actually, it's not a beer that we like to drink, but right now I'm like,
Yeah.
And you get a bit more mouthfeel to it,
Yeah,
a bit
you
more
do.
sweetness.
It's nice.
bit of body, bit of extra body as well.
Okay. Well, let's get that in taste.
Yeah, you're lagging behind there, Paul. Tasting. It's nice and sweet. There's a biscuitiness to that. Definitely a little bit of bonfire topic as well.
Yeah.
And then you get a little bit of bitterness at the end. It's just a little bit subtle. Wow, I really like that.
I think that's really good, guys.
It's really great hearing
It's
other
really good.
people kind of comment on what they're tasting from the beers we made. We use some pale malt wheat, torrefied wheat, there's caramel, crystal, and some roast barley as well. So your colours.
It's the roasted barley I think that's giving it that smokiness. It's a smoky edge.
Oh,
it's
it's
almost
smoky.
like
Yeah, it is.
it's almost like you've just had a really good quality cigar. You know?
Yeah.
But it's just at the end after you've got that sweetness and that maltness out of the way. It leaves you with that smokiness, right?
That's a really nice way of putting it, that actually. I get what you mean.
It's like a really good quality mild Havana.
In terms of ABV, what we're talking about?
4.5 this one.
4.5, yeah.
Ram.
Lovely.
So what's next?
Next, we move it up a bit.
Things are going downhill from here.
Crank it up.
Crank it up. Is that
Crank it up.
to kind of some bigger boys. We've got IPA and Dark Storm.
Fantastic.
Okay, Alistair, Captain Morrison.
Okay, Captain Morrison's IPA, named after a relation of mine. This is probably our favourite beer between the two of us.
Definitely
Little
mine.
Genie.
That's like dry ice, that. Look at that.
Okay.
You can play mother today, Paul.
How lively is she? Oh, she's okay.
She's alright, that one. She's okay, then.
She's very clear.
Look at that. Beautiful. It's right. I don't know whether beer buying customers that think beer should be clear.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily true anymore, I don't think. When you talk about the influx of any IPAs and West Coast IPAs, they're getting hazier and people are liking that.
Yeah.
But yet, people still want to see beers like that.
But I have to admit that right when we started brewing, that I was always trying to make sure they were always clear, and Brendan was always, it doesn't really matter. And more and more now, people accept beer that is not as clear, but this comes up like this. It's crackers.
It is, yeah.
And this is unfiltered, unfined. That is straight out of the fermenting vessel, essentially into a bottle.
Yep.
And that's what it looks like.
Yep.
So I think there's a sort of floral note to that.
Absolutely is.
I also get a little sort of marmalade-y or that's the Amarillo.
It's like orange flower blossom, and also a little bit of pininess is like a resinous. That's what I mean.
Exactly. That's the Chinook in that.
That's good.
This is what we were brewing today, by the way. This is what's on the go here.
Got to go in.
You guys have had some out of the keg that's in there, but see, I like it a bit warmer. That temperature.
That temperature's really good actually for that.
Yeah, get more flavour out of it, I think.
Really good.
A little bit more residual sugar in it gives it a bit more body and a bit more sweetness. I think it doesn't. You don't have the alcohol taste in some of that you get in some of the higher ABV beers that you might try.
Yeah.
It's just a question of balance. Again,
it's not particularly bitter. I mean, the bitterness is there.
Well, the bitterness will come from the boil, usually, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
the aroma.
You guys have seen today, we've just put, a couple 100 grams of hops in at the boil, and we've not added any more yet.
Yeah.
We're nearly done.
Yeah.
So it's bitter, but to me it's not like over the top.
It's not.
No.
It's the dryness to it again, but you get that citrusy note is definitely there. It comes more of a kick and then lingers back to a bitterness at the end, which is it's really refreshing. It makes you just want to drink more of it.
That's the problem.
Oh, I mean the aroma.
You like Amarillo.
Yeah, I do. I really like Amarillo.
It really comes across on this.
This is a complete
distinctive. That aroma is distinctive.
This is a complete beer.
But this was voted beer of the festival. This was Troon Beer Festival.
Last time around.
It was not.
Stout came second, but
yeah.
If we could add the Dark Storm actually came second as well.
It just goes from strength to strength. Literally.
So for the whole festival, you guys bagged first and second place.
Yeah.
So we're on to the final one.
Yep. Right at the end, Dark Storm.
I think this is likely to be my favourite.
It's a lot of people's favourite.
Oh, look at that genie. Look at that genie.
This has been involved for a little while as well.
Look at that genie.
Oh, that is like dry ice. Look at that.
You're going to need to tilt that glass, John. This has been in bottle for a little while. It's well conditioned.
When's this bottle thing, Brendan?
Silver glass.
No. No. This looks lovely.
So good.
Okay, so yeah, in terms of stout, you've got that kind of almost metallic aroma, I think, that you...
I like more like a coffee.
Yeah, it's coffee. It's coffee, it's dark
roasted.
chocolate.
Sitting by a fire.
Definitely getting that roasted.
There's still a sweetness behind. There's a dark sort of like bitter sweetness. Just in the aroma. I've not tasted that yet.
I'm not a stout drinker, but I do think it's a cracking stout.
You like it in keg as well, don't you?
In keg, drinking it a little bit colder, it's lethal.
Oh, the sweetness in there is unbelievable. This is a great stout, and it's got all those great things I like about a stout. It's got that sweetness.
Yeah. That bitter chocolate. It's got that dark coffee.
Yeah.
Smokiness about
pretty well balanced.
Yeah.
I occasionally I talk about how I would quite like to have a stout as a kind of pudding beer on a Saturday night, and this beer fulfills that really, really well.
It was brew number 5 ever, and I think if we count back all the brews we've done, we'll have brewed this more times than anything else we've ever brewed.
So what's the malt bill on this? What have you got in this?
We have pale, a little bit of lager, wheat. There's quite a lot of wheat in this actually. There's wheat and torrefied wheat, chocolate malt, and roast barley.
But the bitterness, I suppose it's wonderfully balanced by the sweetness of the beer, isn't it?
I think so.
Well, I think I've worked out. I've got 5 favourites.
What would be your favourite beer out of the beers you've tried this evening?
He's a McCash man.
Oh, McCash.
Louis McCash.
It shows.
I'm going to have to go for Captain Morrison's.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the complete beer.
Good man, Paul.
Absolutely, it's the complete beer. So I think those two beers, really great examples of those particular styles of beers.
I mean, let's not argue with this. They're all good.
Yeah, they're all.
So it's difficult.
Some are better,
guys.
Yeah.
No, we've thoroughly enjoyed that.
So that brings us to the end of our tasting session here at Five Kingdoms Brewery. I'd like to say that we've thoroughly enjoyed our time here with Alistair and with Brendan, because Alistair and Brendan were hoping to take Five Kingdoms Brewery to the Troon Beer Festival. And so we just want to extend our thanks to the Troon Beer Festival organisers as well. And I'm sure Alistair and Brendan want to say a few words as well.
We're going to miss not going this year, basically, and we'll see you guys next year. And really thanks for all the support that the local branch has given us this year, and we'll try and develop something really interesting for you for 2021.
Thanks, guys.
So if you haven't subscribed to Beer Reactions before, if this is the first time you've seen a Beer Reactions video, remember to click
just down below. Indeed. And subscribe. And on that note, I'd love to say, Slange! Slange!
Thanks to Alistair, Brendan, Phil and Jono for that great video. With apologies for the variable sound on it, the microphones were picking up a lot of background noise from the brewery equipment. However, it's well worth the long drive down to stay at the Steam Packet Inn in the Isle of Whithorn, or you can order beers from Five Kingdoms website at www.fivekingdomsbrewery.com. Likewise, you can search YouTube for beer reactions to find Phil and Jono's channel, where they've been tasting a great range of beers. A link to the video will also appear on the festival website, taking you to their YouTube channel. To round off this evening, here's some more music from the archives of our live bands. Firstly, Duffy's Gypsy Band in 2015, then Delta Smoke in 2018, finishing with Big Slinky playing last year in 2019 for us.
until rain hands away. Everything's a loser and the best to keep it warm, resting down in the sleep. And when he finished speaking, turned back toward the window, pushed out a cigarette and faded out to sea. And somewhere in the darkness, a gambler he broke even. There's final words I found in this that I could keep. You gotta know where to hold up, know where to fold up, know where to walk away, know where to run. You don't build your money when you're sitting at the table every time when the dealing's done. You gotta know where to hold up, know where to fold up, know where to walk away, know where to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table every time another count. When it is, let's see, come on, you gotta know where to hold up, know where to fold up, know where to walk away, know where to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table every time another count. When the dealing's done, you gotta know where to hold up, know where to fold up, know where to walk away, know where to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table every time another count. When the dealing's done. Thank you very much, folks. Thank you. Good night. Cheers, thank you.
Well, that's the end of this evening's presentation. Not quite the same as the real event, I'm sure you'll agree, but we hope you've enjoyed the 2 brewery tours and tastings. Thank you to all our contributors and help in producing this presentation. Remember, you can buy beers online from 5 Kingdoms as well as from Ayr Brewing Company, but where possible please continue to also support your local real ale pubs, and we hope it won't be too long before we can all meet up again for a pint as a group. If you're not a member of CAMRA, once again please consider joining the organisation. The Beer Festival was one of our biggest sources of membership. It's great value and gives you lots of extra benefits. Keep up to date with our branch news on our website awcamra.org.uk, as well as on socials via Facebook and Twitter. Till next year, cheers!